do that. Okay. Where am I going? Right here. Oh, it even like tells me who's. Oh, look at that! That's so cool. Wow, 8 people. Wow, that's actually really cool. Oh, bye, DJ. Peace out. All right. So a little bit confusing, but the last class was class number 0. This is the first class, and that's called a zero offset, and you'll get used to that as we go through programming. But just so you know, when you do like your exit tickets, I noticed that everyone did class 1. Today is class 1, so just do it again with class 1, no big deal. And yeah, okay. Okay, so this class we're going to be working with JavaScript on the command line. We're going to differentiate between the internet and the World Wide Web, a little bit of what we did last class. There will be some overlap. Use the most common commands to navigate and modify files and directories via the terminal. We are going to use Git a little bit. And we are going to run some basic JavaScript on the command line using Node. So pretty packed class. Okay, language of JavaScript. I mentioned this kind of just when I was using words last class. But 1995, was from scratch, created in about 10 days, created by a gentleman by the name of Brendan Eich while he was at Netscape, which is now Mozilla. It is an object-oriented based language. That is an important distinction. You'll typically run across object-oriented, functional languages, or imperative, another language type. So the language of JavaScript originally was only able to run in the browser. Nowadays we have technologies such as Node.js, which we installed last Wednesday. Monday. Node.js allows us to run JavaScript programs without a browser. Instead, we can actually just run them in the terminal, which we will do today. So the web's building blocks, just to go over this really quickly again. HTML, hypertext markup language. Is a language used to provide structure to the applications in our browsers, formatted like this. If you ever had a MySpace page, you're probably well versed in HTML. The basis of every website. There's really no way to have a website without HTML. There would be nothing on the page. It'd be like a person without any bones. CSS, cascading styling language of websites, provides the ability to change colors, fonts, widths. It's kind of the paint of your house. So if you're thinking of HTML, it's kind of the wood, the walls, the roof. CSS is the nice paint or mural you put on inside your house. That's the kind of person you are. And to add to, CSS is actually kind of becoming the animation portion of modern websites as well. It used to kind of be JavaScript's job, but now CSS is kind of caught up. So things like blinking or fading in or like doing a little bounce effect, that used to all be JavaScript. But nowadays, CSS can do it. And the reason that's a good thing is because CSS can take advantage of the graphic processor on your machine, whereas JavaScript could not. So really big improvement made in the last couple of years. JavaScript, I said this last time, but I'm putting it in bold and I'm putting it on a slide. Nothing to do with Java other than the name. Used as a marketing scheme by Netscape in the 90s. JavaScript provides the ability for dynamic elements on web pages. So when I say dynamic, I mean things that HTML cannot do. An HTML marquee tag is not like dynamic. Just because it moves doesn't mean it's dynamic. What I mean is the page doesn't have to reload to do certain things. If you're on Facebook and you have the chat box that's always in the bottom right, it's always somebody bugging you from high school you don't like, but they still want to talk to you. That's JavaScript. Because it's on the same page, I can type in a message and I hit send, and that's sending it to a server, but my page is never reloading. I'm not like F5 and reloading the page to send that message. When I click send, it's not going somewhere else. That's using JavaScript. Whenever you see something like, are you sure you really want to delete this status? That's also JavaScript. Any like drop-down menu you see on a page too, like if you hover over on a website and it has like a drop-down menu on the top, that's JavaScript as well. It's everywhere. So it's really the interactive portion of websites. Okay, so the back end. Typically in a language like Ruby, Python, Go, that's really all there is to that. Backend is kind of the thing that serves dynamic HTML. So an example of this is you're on Facebook.com and you do the initial page load and it has welcome Robert at the very top up there. That's being served by a backend language. It's saying, here is the HTML and in this portion of the HTML include, well, hello Robert or whatever the word is. And then any other dynamicism added to that page is provided by JavaScript. But you have to have the initial thing served up before anything else can happen. Typically handles database interaction, so saving things to a database, editing them, deleting, reading. Ruby on Rails can be considered a backend framework. Not even can be considered, it is a backend framework. If you're interested in Ruby on Rails, come talk to me. I can point you to places on that as well. That's what I've been using for a couple years as well. So the possibilities, you don't have to read all this. It's in the slides for you to kind of read it on your own. The gist of it is everything I just said, but more. I'm going to skip over this slide. I don't like these slides. Like, that's not helpful. Like, that's okay, so this one is a little bit more important, though. So JavaScript is flaky. There are some portions of JavaScript that are just going to annoy you, and it's gonna suck. But that's why Google and Stack Overflow exists for developers like us. You're gonna get some weirdness where maybe you do something that makes JavaScript just make your computer catch on fire. For example, an infinite loop. JavaScript's not really good at not making your machine catch on fire in those situations. If you've ever used Slack, actually we all use Slack now, if you ever go to your activity monitor, Slack is always going to be in the top 5, and it's because of JavaScript. JavaScript is very heavily used in Slack, so JavaScript is not exactly, I'll say, CPU efficient a lot of the time. You can make it that way, but most of the time it's not in the browser. Another thing too is that sometimes JavaScript can actually be turned off in browsers. Extremely rare, extremely rare. You probably don't have to care about this. Yeah, like there's an HTML tag from the early 2000s called noScript that if you didn't have JavaScript enabled, it would actually like render what was in between that HTML tag. So if you've ever been to a page that's like, you must have JavaScript enabled to view this page in the early 2000s, they were using that tag. So you can at least tell people, hey, this website is not going to work unless you have JavaScript on. That was the point of it. Okay, so a couple things to keep in mind when you're learning this language and kind of working through problems. JavaScript was made in 10 days originally. While it has been updated in the last 20 years, there are some dark corners. I have a video that I'll show you once we get a little bit more into the class, but it basically shows some of the stuff of JavaScript that's like, what the hell, this makes no sense at all. It's called WAT. And you're going to have those moments in this class, and I just want you to be able to say like to yourself that it's not always you, it is kind of JavaScript's fault sometimes. Any questions so far? I know I'm moving a little quick right now. Great. Node.js. Node.js was made to allow running JavaScript outside of the browser. Some people were like, well, this is actually a good language. What if we bring it into our terminals? What if we allow it to run on a backend, on a server, instead of people's browsers? This is a good idea. It let developers write the same language for both the backend and the browser. And that's a big deal if you think about it. Sometimes you're writing the same logic in two places. For example, validating an email. Well, in the front end, you might do something that before somebody clicks submit, it says you must type in a valid email. That makes sense. But there are ways that you can get around that stuff where you can still click submit and send an invalid email. So if you write JavaScript that does that validation on the front end, it makes perfect sense to use the same exact code on the back end. And that's why this Node.js thing kind of took off. It's like, well, I can use a lot of the same stuff I was doing in the front end on the back end. And it's extremely fast. Yeah. Okay, so a tip for success while we're kind of working through this class, not just this one, but the next 9.5 weeks. Anytime you see a $sign, that is indicating that the thing must be run in the terminal. So $, who am I? You would only type in who am I. It's really just an indicator of where something would go. Just so you know, the little, like I said, I love my trivia. This was the indicator used in one of the first terminals called the Bourne shell. And on your Macs and Windows, you have bash. Bash stands for Born Again shell. So not Jason Bourne, just some other guy named with the last name Bourne. I wonder if that's where they got. Okay. So last week we kind of futzed around and we did some fun stuff. But this class we're going to spend time really digging in and learning some of the core commands that you'll really be using all the time. Things that you should really try to get into muscle memory. Like you shouldn't be thinking what it is or anything like that, because these things that you're using all the time are going to be best fit for muscle memory, because then you're not caring about the things that are actually hard, like logic and ifs and elses and loops and oh my. And I also like the terminal because you can. I think once you get it down, you can move around in your terminal faster than you could like in Finder or Windows Explorer. So here are some basic commands, except these three. Those aren't. So ls lists the contents of a directory. cd change directories. Make a new folder. Armdir remove an empty folder. You can also use rm to remove folders. Touch create an empty file. subl subl. This one doesn't come out of the box, but I will have a couple of minutes for us to get set up with this on our machines because it's a lifesaver. Some other terms that are in here as well is the / current folder. To think about this, like I just think of period as like, if you just point down, you're just kind of like, this is where I am. That's what it means in terminals, current location. If you're in the directory /root, / represents right here, /root. / means one over there. So now I'm in the directory previous to the one that I'm currently in, or from your perspective, like that. ~/ is your home folder, and that could be /users on Mac /Robert. It could be /users / I was gonna say Robert. James, and yeah, that one's kind of special depending on how your system is set up. Any questions on this slide or any of the last few? Beautiful. Okay, so let's actually jump in and we'll start doing this. So for Macs, open the terminal app. This is the same one from the last class. Applications, utilities, terminal. I'm a fan of Spotlight. Just use Spotlight or Alfred if you're really looking for some good software. Optionally, and please don't do this now, but I'm a big fan of iTerm2. It's a replacement for the built-in terminal in Mac OS X. It's very flexible, has a lot of really awesome features, really, really cool stuff. Maybe download that after class. Cool. Everyone got their terminal open? Because we're about to do a subtle shortcut. So there's a shortcut that you can add that when you go into a terminal, you can do subl dot, and that would open the current directory that you're in. Because remember, dot right here. So if you do subl space dot right now, you'll probably get command not found. But for the entertainment value, can someone please tell me if they get no error when they do this? So if you could type in just which subl. This is why Alfred's awesome. Does anyone get command not found? No? Hold up, really? Ooh, maybe Sublime updated. Oh, they totally did. That was in the README like a week ago. They totally added it by default. Okay. Just to check, can we do subl dot and does anyone not open Sublime? Sorry, I'll do it again. Subl dot, what I have up there.
Mine is not found. Mine is not.
Do you get command not found? Ah, okay, that's what I was like, no way. Okay. So Sublime Text, Subl, they have it on their website. There's this one right here. Oh, right. Okay, I remember doing this. So I'm going to put this in Slack really quick. Oh, don't do that to me. So the command that you're going to want is so I just pasted a command. Oh my gosh, don't do that one yet. Sorry. There's something wrong with it. Sublime Text. There was a 2 in here. That's why I freaked out. Okay. Press this over right here. So the command that I just put in Slack right here, this one. Go ahead and copy that from ls to the very end, or I'm sorry, ln to the very end, and paste that in your terminal. If anyone receives an error, please promptly let us know. Oh, that's not, this is, oh crap, Justin. No, that's fine. No, I thought about you. See, like, I was thinking about you. I had Sublime Text. If nothing else, you can use, you could just use the GUI to actually open things up. Rock on. Cool. Okay, so is everyone able, now, okay, so here's the real test. Can we all run subl dot again after running that command, and let's see if we get actual results. No. Are you doing 2? Yeah. I would install 3 if I were you, but are you using Sublime Text 2 or 3? Yeah, I was 3.
So is that different?
This are can you do me a favor, type in Twitch space SQL? Yeah. This. Just to make sure. Oh, this isn't going to do that. So it looks like very but yeah, okay, so what was down here was is this guy. The fourth click. And then the thing.
I did it. Thank you.
Space after the also, yeah, we'll start sounding for 30 minutes. Yeah. Where is oh, you're using Atom. Oh, yeah. No, yeah. For you using that. You're going to add a dot, so it's all about. Love. Does anyone else using Atom? Just know that when I say something about it, it's Atom dot. Okay. Yeah, cool. Anyone else? Where is
So like the first thing is to say that's a clock. I had to go down it. I had to run it down. Because I didn't realize I was videos. I think it's so hard to pause it and do it. Yeah, I don't know how many wants to. I started looking at it in this class. Thanks, Lauren. I know, I do too. When did you go fly? Yeah. Yeah, you sent it to me if you really want to do it. And I sent it over to you.
See that now? Oh, yeah. Okay, that was fun. All right, let's keep going. Okay, back to Keynote. Okay, so this is a command that you're going to use a lot. I need to slow down. So you're going to use that command a lot to open your projects and start your homework and all sorts of things. My fingers type in Sublime Dot like a lot, so it's a very good tool to have just kind of in your terminal. Okay, so we're going to move into a code along now. Now this is kind of the first one that we've ever done. So I'll explain kind of the format that this class will typically, sorry, I got these pigeons making up. Sorry, the format of this class is the code alongs are going to happen, which is I'll do something and you'll kind of follow. So like when I'm doing something up here, you are mirroring what I am doing on your machine. So I just gave the information of a bunch of commands. Now we're about to do the commands and you'll follow along. And then I will set you off on your own and you can experiment and try some things. And I'll put instructions up for what it will be expected to do. Cool? All right. I have notes I have to look up. All right. So in our terminal, first one's clear, which will shove everything up. It doesn't get rid of it. You can still scroll up and it will be there. But clear is a good one. So the first one that you'll probably start using is CD. And CD, again, stands for change directory. And I like doing ~/ which is home directory. And that'll bring you to your home directory. And if you ever want to know where you are, there is, and by where you are, I mean which directory you currently are in, there is a command called pwd, which stands for present working directory. You can think of pwd as your kind of GPS of your machine, like where am I? Because sometimes you might get lost and you have no idea where you are, so you can use pwd to tell you where you are. So and you can tell that users Robert, yours is probably not the same. It's probably a little different. That's because the home directory path is varied on each machine. So in this path, I like making a directory for each class that I do for everything that we do in the class. So for this one, I'm going to do a make dir JS5.8. And remember the rule from last class, if you do something and it's not loud, odds are it worked. Because if I run this command again, it'll say JS5.8 file exists. So it's already there, it's already happy, or now it's unhappy. So we created this directory, but one thing to keep in mind is when you create directories, you don't automatically just get put in them. So now we have to use cd JS5.8. You'll see that it'll change my terminal. This is something that I've set up in my setup. This isn't default. But if we do pwd again, you will see that now we have gone further into the file system's directory structure. Cool? Questions, comments on this so far? All right. Now the next thing is you can do make dir, and let's do homework /01. Let's try this out. We get a weird little error. It says no such file directory homework. That's because if you try creating a directory inside of a directory that does not exist, make dir will go, nah, sorry. If this directory homework existed, and we did make dir homework /01, it would have created the directory 01 inside of that. That sort of makes sense? What I just did is also equivalent to doing this. Remember, // is where I am plus /homework /01. Now, to get around this, let's say you do want to create homework and 01 in one shot. You could do make dir homework, cd homework, make dir 01. That would work. Or you can do -p after make dir, so make dir space -p space, and then the directory path that you would like to do. And now if we run this, we will see that we get no error. Now here's the next thing I'd like to show you. The ls command, which stands for list. If we do ls, we'll see homework. And I like the list view to be a little bit more descriptive, so I do ls-lsa. And the reason I do this is because it shows me when it was created, who owns it on my machine, which you probably won't care about most of the time, and its permissions on the far left. You'll probably only ever use the modified version, maybe the permissions at some point, but it's nice to be able to see like this list view. So we see homework in here, so that means that we can go to cd homework. My machine is working over here. Give me a sec. Sublime Text, what you doing? Sublime Text is great, I promise. Gulp, what you doing? No, for real. Okay, cool. Remember I said Slack will probably be in your top 5? There it is, chilling. Okay, back to business. Now, if we do ls again, we'll see 01 in here. So remember we did that make dir-p and it created the whole file structure. The other cool thing about -p is it doesn't care if the directories do exist. So if I were to do make dir-p again from that same place where I was, it wouldn't have errored. It just would have been like, fine, whatever, these already exist. Now, so we're kind of deep now, right? If we do pwd, we can see we're in /user/robert/JS5.8/homework/01. We're pretty deep into our machine. So how do we go backwards? How do we put it in reverse and go backwards a little bit? Well, it's change directory again, but instead of dot, it's dot dot. So you're going to do dot dot slash. You can actually even omit the slash if you want. And that will bring you to the previous directory, the directory that you are nested under right now. And if we do pwd again, you can see that the previous version we were in here, we said cd dot dot, so we went from here to just /homework. We can do it again, do pwd again, and you can see that we just keep going backwards and backwards and backwards. I'm going to go back into JS again, or whatever I did. Oh, right, cd homework. And then, yeah, you get the point. It's really just forward and reverse. That's all cd really is, forward and reverse. If you try changing into a directory that does not exist, you will get an error, no such file or directory, ASDF. Questions, comments so far? Rock on. Okay, so in the homework directory in 01, that is where I currently am, so please cd your way over into that directory. Let's try making a file. So commonly, if you ever want to make a file, what do? You go to Microsoft Word, you click Save, you type in the name of the file, and you save it, and this is such a pain. Or, in a terminal, you can do touch assignment. And we'll do .txt for the file extension. So you can just say, create this file, here's the name of it. And when you run that, how do you get a list of things in the current directory? ls. And there it is. Assignment.txt. Now, the interesting thing about touch is it will not complain if the file is already there. It will do something interesting to the file, however. It will change the last modified time on the file. So if for whatever reason you need to change the time of the last modified time on a file, you can do touch name of the file, and it will update the last modified time. And I think you can actually see that on here. So it was 19:10. It is now just after the 11th minute. So if we do assignment again, and then we do ls, lsa. Yep, so this is the last modified time. You can see that I did the touch from here to here. It changed by a minute. So that's the point of that. And if the file does not exist, it will create it. Now let's say you hate this file and you want to get rid of it. Well, there is rm remove. So you can do rm assign. And now here's what I want you to do. I want you to type in rm assign. Don't type the rest of the file. And hit the tab key. From here on out, if you can get away with using tab, try to use tab as much as possible. Because the odds of you mistyping something and then you get something that says file does not exist, blah, 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 can be avoided most of the time if you just tab and let your file system figure out what you actually mean. So rm assignment, do that, ls, and it's gone. Potentially dangerous. You know why? I'm glad you said that. When you do an rm, it does not go to your trash. So don't be like, oh, dang it, it's still in my... No, it's not. It's not. So be careful. You do lose that kind of safeguard. Questions on this last two commands? Sweet. Okay. Now, let's say you want to figure out where a command exists on your machine. For example, subl. For the few of us that had a few problems and I came over and helped you out, one of the things you probably saw me do was this, which subl. And that'll actually show you where on your file system that command exists. So now I'm like, well, I need to remove this for whatever reason. I'm upgrading Sublime. I'm doing something like that. I could do rm user local bin subl. And that would remove my Sublime shortcut. I will not do that, though. Please don't type this. We just went through so much. I realized, like, wait. Okay. Now, another thing. Yes? Because I did give it to your file system. Like, I did actually add that file while I was sitting over there. If you ran it again, it would probably, like, run it again. You can hit the up arrow to rerun the previous command. Really? Now I'm curious. Let's do it. Why not? Yes. Now I don't have my Sublime shortcut. That's fine. It's easy to fix. Really? I will take a look at that at our break. Because I'm very curious what's going on there. Okay. Now, let's say you want to open, you're tired of the terminal, you just want to see, you just want a graphical interface. It's fine, I feel you. You can do open and then the current directory, right? So remember, period means current directory. So you can do open, give it the first parameter of dot, run that, and pop-ah, your directory folder will open in Finder or Windows Explorer. And you can, change your view around, whatever you want to do. Okay. That's not what I wanted. Now, the other kind of cool thing, if you're really adventurous, you can actually use open for many things. You can actually do open and then this, and that'll actually open in a browser. That's kind of a fun one. If you have files that you know will be like opened inside of Excel or something like that, because you can do that as well. So I'm sure I have something in my downloads folder that I can like show. 1099, I don't know what that is. Let's not show my tax returns. Okay, a PDF. So I can say open this PDF. It'll open it in preview. Just some ideas of like, you can use open for more than just getting a Finder window in the current directory. Dodged a bullet there. Yes?
Actually, open is not working on mine.
In Windows Bash?
I just typed in it all.
Oh, you know what I think it is? I think it's Explore. Can you try typing Explore and running that? What about Explorer? That's my last guess. I know that there's a version of it. That was it? All right. Rock on. Okay, few more. Stay with me. Now, let's say you want to, you're like, oh God, what was that command I ran? I can't remember that command I ran, and I closed my terminal. Whatever happened to it? Well, fear not. There is a command called history that if you run that, it will show all of the history of all time. Yes, I do have 10,000 entries in this history file alone. I would expect you to get in the several thousands by this class. So these numbers mean something. These numbers do mean something. If you're ever like, oh cool, there it is, and then you move your mouse like a caveman, you start highlighting this because you want to run it again. You don't need to do that. You can actually do exclamation point and then the number that you would like to do, and that will bring it there, and then you can press enter, and wow!
It's a SSH at work, so that's what I was doing, the caveman method.
Now let's say you get something crazy, and it's like, remember that what I said last class is like if you get a permission denied, like why is that happening? Well, this is a fun one. You can bring this one's really not known. So if you have devs at work, I bet you could show this to them, they'd be like, whoa. So if not, you could be like, look what I learned. Win-win. So you can actually do 2 exclamation points, and it will prefix the command. What am I doing? 242. And it will prefix it. Oh no, did I just lie to you? Oh, this might be a bash thing. Hold on. I'm not giving up. I've lied to you. Wait, hold on. Oh, I remember. Okay, I remember now. Promise. You just have to do bang bang, and that will run the previous command with sudo. There we go. Okay, I remember now. So that'll run the previous command with sudo. That's a fun one. Now, let's say you already remember what the command kinda was. You're like, it started with an open. I don't remember the rest of it. So you can actually do Control R, and that will bring up something called reverse I search. And this is kind of like a little autocomplete thing built into your terminal. So you can actually start typing in open, and you'll see that it will just kind of fill out what it thinks you want to run. And it's most recent first, going back. So it's going to do the thing that it finds most recently, going back to the time of your history. And if you run that command, there it is again, it'll just bring it right up. So if you have a command that you're running constantly at work, or you're doing something like that, you can use the history or Control R to rerun these commands very, very easily. Now I'm going to give you a terminal tip. I would recommend maybe writing this down or just remembering it. But a lot of the times you're going to typo something and it's going to be in the front of the line. So let's say I have this command and I'm like, ah, crap. I didn't want open, I wanted RM. And you quickly notice that this takes a long time. And I have my key repeat set to the highest setting, which if you haven't done that, please do that. And you're like, ah, that was painful. So you can actually do Control A, and that will go to the beginning. Or Control E, and you can see it's going back and forth. Control A to the beginning, Control E to the end. Fun fact, that will work in most text editors as well. So if your hand is in a weird position that you can't get to the end key, you can actually use Control A or E as well. So the example I was giving, let's say I want to remove this file and I actually happen to not need this file. I can go here really quickly, change it to RM, and get rid of my file. Cool. Okay, any questions on anything I just showed? Nice. Okay, so here is what I would like you to do on your own. If any of this is unclear, please just raise your hand and I'll clarify it for you. But create a folder in your sites folder in your ~/sites called goals. You're going to go into the folder and hit create 3 empty files, open Sublime Text. Now you can do the way that's kind of given out here, or you can use the Sublime shortcut that was given. Modify the contents of the file and save it. And I'm going to give, what time is it? How are we doing on time? 8 minutes.
Where we go?
Just the sites folder. So you can do cd /sites. And if that directory doesn't exist, you may need to create it. If you want to do it in the JS5.8 directory too, it doesn't matter. It's really just for practice. Oh my gosh, Blink-182 is coming to Citi Field. Who's going? Let's go. With Linkin Park and Wu-Tang. What?
Lincoln Park.
Okay, sorry. 8 minutes. 8 minutes. 8 minutes. While you guys are going, is there any music genre that anyone in here just hates to the core? I'll start. Country. Sometimes I like to play music. Would you guys prefer not? Is there anyone that's kind of against that? Cool. Okay. I'll leave this open because I don't want to pull away from it yet. But for the other ones, I'll play music. I'll be my ones. I'm curious that you're getting at this assignment.
I'm just trying to make it.
You're in your root. Can you present working directory? PWD. Oh yeah, you're in the very core of your machine. So do this for me. Go ahead and do cd and then ~sites. Capital sites. Yep. Okay, so just do ~/ the cd ~/. Yep. And now you can make the directory all the sites you have those. Just the word sites. Because you're in that directory.
Yeah.
And now you can cd into that. There you go. And now you can start to do it your way. You're welcome. So how do you figure out where you currently are? You're in a weird, you're in like a weird hell. Yeah, what I would do, sorry, I'm just gonna remove this file. I'll go here. What? That one too. So now you're in sites, and then you do that up there, basically. I would like, because we've been saying like create a folder called folders, and go to that folder. You can do C and then tilde slash. So if it's saying directory doesn't exist, just go there, so hit enter. And now you can, how do you create a directory for sites? Or you can learn with us. So if you do cd space sites, there. That might get confusing because I always capitalize my letter S, so just keep in mind if you see it up there that yours is lowercase. Or you can rename it. There are about 3 minutes left. All right. Who needs another minute? Cool. I'll put another minute on the clock. Start.
My partner is not saying that.
Okay. Cool. So it's been about an hour. I think it's a good time. Take a break, stretch your legs. I guess I could have said that if you were done, you could have taken a break. Apologies. But yeah. What's that? Good question. I should say these things. Let's take a 5-minute break. So 5 minutes, 7:38. Please be back here. Rock on. Oh, so I guess listening to Blink-182 there. This is a good choice, typically. Let's play the best stuff.
Yeah. Should be thankful. I don't understand why. Because she's out of term.
Just testing out.
Well, that's why I asked her, and it was like, it's cute.
Could I steal your charger? I keep forgetting to. Oh, cool. Thank you. I keep forgetting to bring my charger. It's so good. I should just buy a spare one. Which one? Oh yeah. Let me look at that. I'm really surprised to hear that.
Then I make Sarah read my reply, and return like stuff again with my goal. And he read it. He's like, "Oh, it's like how do you think it makes sense?" And I was like, "Will you protect me?" So when Content says this is not your job, because even Karma was like, it might like come off as like this isn't your job. But Eric said, "Do it." But it doesn't. It's just like hours. Everyone's responding. And Jess was like so much great. Like she's literally so amazing. She's not only like because she's asking us for yeah. So I don't know if you were doing that. So there's something like no, it's just like also not okay. So then she's like, can you give me an opportunity? Well, no, that's so good. Yes, it's very good job. Like there was a good I know, and she was like to me for I was like, I'm not sure if I should be doing this.
So I usually do yes, but then I renamed it here. It's part of it. I originally named it
Yeah, that's why you have
Yeah, but that means that.
right, and I was really like this.
It's the one showing me.
My answer was it doesn't exist.
See how it is.
I
just had something in one of my
It's updated. I started off as different.
I looked at her background was like, you were like a marketing coordinator role.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
like, that seems to be best for your time. Otherwise, I'm learning some code, but it's like the arts are so she was in like marketing operations class.
So
And all
where
her
you're gonna find like,
marketing.
you're gonna find an executive estimate running your terminal.
Like, you don't really have the
For
skills to
example,
work
you
in a
do.
tech company, but I was like, you might want to try taking some free classes
So it's not.
and
So,
learn HTML.
so like if you're trying to find a file, this isn't gonna be a good way.
No.
So I really don't want to set up.
For things, well, there are excuse me. There you go. Oh my god, it's coming out of the frickin' projector. It's terrible. What are these for then?
Those are just for decoration.
Shouldn't these be used? Yeah.
That's
Yeah, I already dialed it.
see it look like.
Yeah. Don't tell OSHA. It's like, yeah.
Okay, let's jump in. Okay, we're going to talk about something completely different.
Totally different.
We're going to talk about a tool called Git. Git is an SCM tool. SCM stands for Source Control Management. Source being code. The literal code that you are writing, that is source, right? You always hear in CSI, like, oh, I can look at the source code. That's what they mean, source. It allows developers to store and keep track of changes in their code. It also enables collaboration within teams a whole lot easier with a concept called branching and forking. Branching and forking. So, we have already done most of this, mostly on Monday. Just really quickly, if you could do me a favor, in your terminal, please just type in the word git, run it. If anyone gets command not found, please raise your hand. Hallelujah. Cool. What was that? Huh? You don't have it? Cool. Rock on. Okay, so some key terms here. This Git and GitHub are almost like Java and JavaScript. It can get a little confusing. So Git is a tool to manage source code from the command line. GitHub is a software as a service company for profit that hosts your code, your source, in the cloud. Whatever that means. Somebody else's computer. GitHub also provides collaboration tools like pull request reviews and diffs and issue management, all sorts of things. They are two completely different things. You do not need GitHub to use Git. There are other alternatives to GitHub. GitHub is definitely the dominant player in the space, but there are others. But yeah, you don't need GitHub to use Git. You can just use Git to use it. Okay. So this is the analogy I use to explain what Git is and why it's valuable. So think of a stop motion film. If anyone here has seen Wallace and Gromit, it's a stop motion film. Claymation, where they use clay figures they shape them the way that they want. They run back to their camera, they take a picture. So you just have to take very carefully taken photos. And what happens is after a while, you stitch all these photos together, you put it at a certain frame rate, and it looks like something is moving. Because they just move the arm just a little bit each time, and they take a picture each time, and it looks like it's motion. Now, it's the same thing with Git. It's not very different. You stage code, staging meaning like little Wallace figurine, like staging where the arm is going to be, or if they're blinking, or whatever. And then you take a picture using Git. Over time, a project has thousands of commits. Namely, our project has 42,000 commits. A lot of pictures taken for that project. So let's talk about the staging portion in Git. In order to start managing code, you need to stage it. So basically, you make a change to some code somewhere. Let's say you change the color of a CSS style. You would then stage it using git space add, and then the name of the file that you changed. So for Wallace and Gromit, it would be git add wallace.png. The next thing you do, you have not taken the picture yet. You've really just you've put it in the place that you kind of want to take the picture, but you haven't taken the picture yet. Now, in Git, this is called a commit. A commit is a snapshot of the changes that you staged to be made. It's like taking a picture of the thing that you just changed. So if I change the CSS color for something, I stage it with Git, I say git add, and now my job is to commit it, take a picture. And you do this by doing git commit. So you run, this does mean that you're running a command, you're running git commands a few times to get what you actually want. There's no, well there is, but I don't want to show you it. Really you're going to do two phases. You're going to do a git add the changes that you made, and then a second command for git commit. Any questions so far on these last three slides? Okay. Push. I don't know why I put it 3 times. After you've committed your code, you can do a git push to a remote server. Most of the time, this is GitHub. So, like I said, GitHub is really just a software as a service place where it hosts your code. It hosts your Git history and your Git revisions. So when you push your code up to the server, it really ensures that if you lose your laptop or your hard drive dies or something catastrophic goes on, your code is somewhere else. It's kind of a safe haven for your code, but at the same time, GitHub maintains the whole history of your project as well. So if you're ever like, what did this code look like 3 years ago? You can go to GitHub and look at the history for a file and actually go back 3 years ago to see what it looked like 3 years ago. The worst is when you're like, who wrote this code? And you can do a command to see like who wrote the code as well, who committed. And you're like, damn it, was me. It's the worst. Every week. Okay, get along. So we're going to do a couple of things. Oh, and I totally missed a huge key point. A repository. Big point that I totally missed. I'm sorry. So there's a notion of a repository. And it's where all of your Git history is in. So if I were to draw like boxes, like Russian doll style, repository is the biggest thing. And then a git commit is the smallest thing. Commits exist within repositories. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a repository, add some code and changes, and then we're going to push it to GitHub. With me? Cool. Okay. So, here's the earth. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my JS. Sorry, I know that sometimes I do that. I'm going to go into my JS5.8 directory. And I don't remember what's in here, actually, so I'm going to do ls. Yeah. I'm going to make a new directory in here called... Oh, actually, I have a better idea. I'm going to make this folder a Git repository. I'll say that again. The current folder that I am in, I am going to make it a Git repository. Now the way that you do this is you initialize a repository by doing the command git and then the subcommand init and then period. And remember period right here. So the current directory I'm in. And if I run this, you'll see initialize empty git repository. Now the way that Git works, just to kind of remove a lot of the black magic, I remember that when I was using this, I was like, wow, is it doing this? If you do an ls-a, it'll list what are called hidden files. And any folder that starts with a period in Unix is considered a hidden thing. So if you do just ls, you're not going to see git. You can see when I do it, it doesn't appear. But if I do ls-a, it shows git. Now, this folder in here, you can totally cd into this. Do not change anything in here, though. This is mostly just to kind of remove the illusion that git is like this magical thing. All git really does is store everything and all of your changes in this hidden directory. So if I do pwd, you can see I'm in /js5.8 /.git. Folder names can start with a period. That's a long explanation. I just wanted to make sure you guys know that all of these changes are still locally on your machine.
Was that supposed to create a document?
No. When you do, that's a good thing to bring up. So when you do git init, the command that we just did, this one, that will create that directory for you. Did you create the directory? No. So, now the next thing I want to do is I'm going to start like my project. Let's just pretend this is a blank project and I just want to start adding files to it and, you know, new thing. So we're going to create a new file in this folder using our handy dandy touch option. And we'll just do hello.txt. Is my X key not working? There we go. Now, keep in mind, my editor is tricked out. Like, I added, like, hydraulics and NAS and, like, it's just tricked out, man. And so you can see on mine, I have, like, this fancy little X. But what that really is indicating to me that if I do a git status, think of it like Star Trek, like status report, that's what this is. It's basically telling you what is the current status of your project according to Git. Now Git is very verbose. It's very, very, very verbose. But if you read this, it totally makes, mostly makes sense. So you can see untracked files. Untracked files. What that means is that you have a file in this repository that Git has no idea what it is. Git's like, I see there's a file, I don't know what it is, but I see it.
see two files. I'm seeing the homework folder and then follow I'm not in the right directory.
You probably added a file to the homework directory, and that's why Git is picking it up, which is fine. I would actually, it's fine, what you did is fine. If you see more files than what you see here, that's fine.
Where should the hello file be?
In the JS5.8 directory. So I'm in users Robert JS5,
Right.
and if I do an ls, I see hello.txt and my homework folder.
Okay.
My guess is you just have a file somewhere in the homework folder, and that's why Git is showing it to you. Because Git will not add empty folders. So if a folder is empty, Git won't care about it. There's no reason for it to care about it.
What do you mean L1 folder?
What was that?
What do you mean L1 folder?
You wanted to know the folder?
Yeah, there's an L1 folder in homework, so the folder info and
Yeah, so if there's no files in any of those folders, it'll ignore all of them. Yeah, it'll walk the entire directory tree. Okay, so real quick recap. We created a file called hello.txt. If we do a git status, we'll see Git is telling us, hey, looks like there's a file. I don't know what it is, but it's also giving you a little tip. It's saying, if you want, you can do git add and then file to include in what will be committed. So let's do that. Let's do git add hello.txt. And to be, I'll do it on mine, you don't have to do it on yours. To be extremely explicit, Git is going to add from the current directory. So I'm just being very verbose here to show you that Git is going to assume hello.txt in the present working directory. So now, once you've done that add, that's your staging point, right? We were talking about Wallace and Gromit, and like how they like move the arms a little bit, little bit, little bit. What we just did is we moved the arm a little bit, and we're walking back to the camera. We haven't taken the picture yet. We've staged our little claymation dude, but we have not taken a picture. So if you do a git status, you'll see things have changed a little bit. It'll say changes to be committed. So Git's saying, I see what you're doing. You have a file that you want to commit, but you haven't committed it yet, but you're going to. I know it. Now to commit this, you can do git commit -m, very important. The -m stands for message. Now in Git, when you do a commit, you tag it with a message. And your message should be relatively descriptive of what your commit represents, right? So for us, this commit might be added hello.txt. Now you can see, pay close attention, and remember when you walk in through those doors, character by character matters. So I'm doing -m quote added hello.txt quote. And if I run this, you'll see Git is telling us a bunch of stuff. One file changed, 0 things inserted, 0 things deleted, and it created a file, hello.txt. Now if we do a git status, Git's going to be like, nothing's changed. Everything's fine according to me. Now, I'm still here typing. Is everyone okay? Let me see.
Okay.
Yeah.
Get over here.
Is it because I needed another file?
No. Working tree just means the directory and all of the directories and files and threads. That's what a tree is, just all directories. Good. I won't move on until I get to it.
What says untracked files?
If it just says homework, that's fine. It's probably because you have a folder or file in here that you didn't add. So if you didn't get add homework and then did a commit again, then it wouldn't say untracked. What's the mistake? You're in the Git folder, so go dash on directory.
So he's doing it. He's doing it. He's also,
Now you can do target status.
Is adding /.
So git commit is actually, they're no different, really. Like for your question as it is, like they're no different. You're running a command. You're just, yeah. You can think like anything you're running in your terminal, everything is a command. It just depends on what the command does.
So, what's a movement? I like that box.
That's-
Like,
If
very
it-
early on. Yes.
and then it's,
And then it was like all the shit. But I.
typically. Okay, so let's do a recap of events of what we just did. We git initted a repository, a Git repository. We then created a brand new file called hello.txt, has nothing in it, that's fine. We then staged the file using git add, and then we committed the file doing git commit -m, our message, and pressing enter. That's awesome. We have done our first little Git stuff. Now, remember how I said Git is a source control management tool. It keeps track of all history. So you can see all history by doing git log. And you'll see here, it's a one entry log. Just says the commit and then the ID for the commit, called a SHA. The author, me. If you remember from Monday, we did git config -- global and all that stuff. That's where this is coming from. The date that the commit was made, and the message attached to the commit. Now, if you're ever like, what did that commit do? Like, the message just isn't enough. How do I know what this commit actually did? You can actually take this SHA right here, and if you ever see this word over here, if you see my mouse, end, that means that you have to hit the letter Q on your terminal, and that will bring you back to this page. And you can do git show the ID of the commit, and it will tell you what happened in that commit. In this case, the only thing that happened is a file was added, so it's not really showing much. You can just see right here, new file. That's really your indicator. But we see the end again over here. Hit Q, brought back to our terminal. Cool? All right. Now, the next piece of the puzzle. If you could please make your way to github.com. Now, on this page, there is a plus sign drop down in the top right. And there is a new repository option. If you could please click that. And if you are a member of an organization on GitHub, please make sure that it is not a set to that org. Like if I click mine, you can see namely. Please make sure it's your username, because I would hate for you to just create a random repository on your company's GitHub and they're like, what is this? General Assembly has infiltrated our company. Okay, so repository name, what we'll do for this one is we will call it JS5.8 dash, actually just JS5.8, why not? It's fine. And in our description, we'll do test repository for class.
I should have a count on it, right?
Hey, what?
I should have a git count.
Yes. Once all of this is set up, you don't need to initialize this repository with a README because you have already set up your project. You don't need to do all this fancy stuff that GitHub offers. You can just click Create Repository. Now, up here, please make sure that HTTPS is highlighted. And what we're going to do is we're going to do this second option. This first one is if GitHub is just making it easy. If you want, you could just copy what I have and it would init a new repository. You can see here, git init, git add, git commit, git remote add origin, and then push. Now the real meat here that we care about is git remote add origin and then a location. Now to break this down, a remote is, like I said earlier, it's another place that you can push your code and your changes to. Say that again. So you can push your code and your changes and your commits to a remote repository. In this case, GitHub is acting as a remote repository. And the sub command in here, add, is telling Git, okay, you want to add a remote repository called origin, and the location for that remote repository is this URL. So you can just highlight all of this, or you can just click this handy little button, copy to clipboard. This one over here. And you can just head over to your terminal, and please be in the same directory that you've been doing all of these Git operations. You should be able to just slap that in there, press enter, and you should see some magic occurring. Now this is where some problems typically arise, so please tell me. If it's asking for your username, it is a GitHub username. If it's asking for your password, it is your GitHub password. Since you're doing summer work, I would expect you to do problems. So you do okay. Wow. Just use it as a previous fancy. The last time I taught a class, this class, like teaching GitHub was down. Kind of ran that command and it's like, nah, it's confusing. So it's looks like it's Rick at the lead developer.
No, it just Try looking at
Oh, you got it to a Ooh, cool. So what you're gonna have instead then is you're gonna have to go to GitHub and this side here. You're gonna do your settings. And then here you're gonna have personal access. What's this one?
But you know what? It's really happy you have to use a number one, so it's probably like incredible.
And I would select. This should be fine.
I'm really good.
Can you do it now?
So copy that. Because they're only going to show it to you. Just fit it in. If you need to, you can just copy it. Now, what you just copied, you can go back to Git. Yep. And then it looks like the type. So if you just hit delete a bunch of times, so make sure that it's on. And then you can paste. So that's I consider that a good thing. We go back to edit for that token. And then let's check out rebuild. Let's see. Let's just check out all these boxes.
Did you ever hear so? I probably did.
And then you should be able to go back to
Well, it still hurts a little. It's not, it's in air all day.
your
It's going like this.
That's gonna have
Like,
some
so never finally, she's like, oh, is there something wrong here? She's like, you keep turning really weird. She's like, you were in a meeting, you kept doing that. I was like, yeah, I know. She's like, what should we do now? Like, is she trying to sit? He started a morning stretch for the people who get to work early. And so today was the first day I was able to do it. And it's like ever since then, like, I hurt myself in the stretch below. Oh my god. What time do you get it? It's from 8:45 to 9. I usually get it in between like 8:40. No, it's Dan and Sydney were doing it one day. And then I was like sick and so was Zach. And so
Usually a class is really fast, so I would say that you're probably good to go. Just take a second to put it up.
I like 6 minutes. I like the hints from here about the comments, because comments are hard. They're the same. Yeah, they are. I think they are really or something like that. It's matter. They're very soft. Yeah. They're soft.
Keep those steps in mind. Since you have two of it, I mean, it's awesome we have it on. That's really good.
They get so
Okay, so if everything has gone successfully on GitHub/JS5.8, whatever you named it, if you refresh this page, you should see that GitHub has very gracefully updated itself for us, showing the files that we have added to our project. Cool, huh? Now, here is something I want to do. I just want to demonstrate this one thing real quick. Is let's modify this file on GitHub. So what you can do is you can actually click this file. And GitHub, a couple years ago, added the ability to actually edit files on GitHub. So let's edit this file. And we're just going to add some text and say, hello from GitHub. Once you've done that, go ahead and scroll to the bottom. Make sure that commit directly to the master branch is checked off. And this box right here, this is your commit message. So you can be, I don't know, my custom message if you want. All up to you. The next thing we would do from here is we would actually do commit changes. and you would see this file has been changed. Whoa. Totally underwhelming, right? Now, here's where Git is cool. If we head back to our terminal, if we do a git log, same thing we did earlier, it'll show you the log with one entry in it. Now, to see the contents of dominantly text files, you can use the command cat. I don't know why it's called this, and I am not trolling you. So cat hello.txt. And nothing prints out. That's because nothing is in the file. Nothing is in the file, so nothing prints out from cat. Now, what we're going to do is you can push to GitHub, but you can also pull from GitHub. Now, to do that, you can do git pull. I inflected that wrong. Git pull.
I'm in terminal hell.
Terminal hell? Robert's got you. Now, you should see Git do a ton of things that I could try to explain, but you know, it's better left, you know, who cares? So now if you do cat hello.txt, you now see that the file has changed on your local machine. Not only that, you can do a git log, and you will see that your log has been updated as well. Kind of neat, huh? So now you can imagine why this is a tool that developers use, just a little bit more, right? It's, you know, we're just starting to use it, but a developer makes a change to code. Developers want to get the changes really easily, so all they have to do is git pull, and they have all the changes for the project. The other thing as well is that you can do git show, and it'll show you the thing that happened in the most recent commit. Let's say that again. If you do git show, it'll show you the most recent change in the latest commit. You can see that this is in green on my machine with a plus sign prefixed. And that means that that was added. This commit added the content hello from GitHub. That's what that means. If there was a minus sign, it would say this commit removed this content. Any questions on any of the fun stuff we just did?
When I do a git log, I don't go into this view, like this again.
I did a git show to get into that view.
In general, though, I never go into the view and
I don't do it. It just does it right in
Oh, really?
my terminal. Yeah, not going to like
It's not
fancy, isolated pages.
Lucky. I don't know why it's happening, but if you ever do get in that view, it probably will be Q. I'm sure it's like I said, I don't even know what my terminal is anymore. It's just like this thing that over years of just been mutating for years now.
On git show, it still shows adding hello and not custom messages.
Did you do git pull? Yeah. So git pull will do sort of what it sounds like. It's going to go to the origin and pull the changes from there locally. From there to your local machine. Are you good now? Okay. Okie dokie. Okay. So we already went over this. Do we need to go over this again? Nah, we good. Alright, we can skip that. Yeah, skip. Okay, this one I think is interesting. So, trivia time. So World Wide Web, for short, is really just a massive collection of digital documents in the form of HTML pages. It's really all it is. So it's viewed by browsers, we know that, but it really came out in 1989. It really wasn't that long ago, but also pretty early if you think of software engineering as a whole. I mean, software started in the mid-40s but mostly as a military project. So customers didn't start seeing it until the 50s. So 1989 was started by a gentleman. Does anyone know his name?
Tim Berners-Lee?
Yep, Tim Berners-Lee. Huge advocate for the open internet. He's part of the Electronic Frontier Foundation. Generally just a brilliant guy. He also, fun fact, he also made HTML. Tim Berners-Lee was smart. He made HTML like the backbone of the internet of pages. But what he really did is he took a bunch of technologies that already existed and said, what if we do this with them? He just took a bunch of ingredients. He was kind of like a chef and just like made the World Wide Web and then was like, oh yeah, and then I made HTML, so like we have this graphical way of viewing pages. So it really was just a culmination of a bunch of technology pushed together. Like remember in the last class I mentioned, Hello World came from two computers talking to each other, Stanford and UCLA. They took the technology of that and then added the other technology like DNS resolution, which we'll talk about in this class, and that's what we have today. And it really has not changed. Like seriously, it really has not changed. Since 1989, probably the biggest change that has happened is probably IPv6. That's probably the biggest change. But for the most part, HTML has only been added on to. It has the core of it is still the same. We still have marquee tags, for goddamn sake. Like nothing has changed. It's all old. It's just repurposed. So clients and servers, just to recap. Communication between a host, such as a computer, and a client. So this machine right here is a client requesting from a server, saying, hey, give me your website. And it comes back in a response, HTTP, which stands for Hypertext Transfer Protocol. And your browser interprets the HTTP response and whoop, the page appears on the screen. So your browser is like, I know what HTML is, I know what Kung Fu is, and it just prints it out. That's what it does. Okay. Host, computer connected to the internet. That's it. Client, another thing connected to the internet but making a request to a host. HTTP stands for Hypertext Transfer Protocol. Because it's a protocol, it allows for communication between a variety of different computers and supports a ton of different network configurations. So when we say protocol, it really is just, it's following a very strict format of text going over networks between computers. So when we say it implements the protocol, it means that it would know what to do when HTML came through via HTTP. Does that kind of make sense? It's kind of a wordy way of saying it, but browsers implement an HTTP protocol. Okay. So let's talk very briefly about IP addresses and their place in the world. I'm sure if you've ever been like with tech support or you ever see like a forum answer online, they're like, oh, well, what's your IP address? Or they're just asking you like silly questions like that. They're trying to, it's like, thanks. They're really just trying to figure out where your address on the World Wide Web is, on the internet, really. And every place kind of has an IP address. This office has an IP address. And on the other side of it, which is also kind of weird to think about, this computer has an IP address on this office's network. So this IP address might not match what the outside world sees. So if I go to a website from my machine and she goes to a website from her machine, the website's going to get the same address because we both came from the same place. Now, these are not numbers that you're supposed to remember. The one that you're really supposed to remember is the one on the screen. 127.0.1, or, geez, 127.0.0.1. This is localhost. This is the machine that represents, this is the IP address that this machine has assigned to itself. It has self-proclaimed the IP address 127.0.0.1. No computer on the open internet has this IP address. It is local only. But if you have an IP address, like for, say, a host, like we go back here, a host is a computer connected to the internet, you're not going to be expected to remember every single IP address, right? Could you imagine going into Chrome and be like, oh, what was the number for Google? Nobody does that anymore. I don't even know the phone number for my best friend anymore because I just look up his name. So it's kind of the same thing, where if you want to get to a specific server, you really just care about the domain name, the human thing, the word that is more easily remembered by humans. So generalassembly.com, namely.com, google.com, we can remember those. Those are easy. But how does that translate into an IP? How do you go from Google to whatever the IP is? 216.5.8.192.46. How do you go from Apple 17.170? So you do something called a DNS lookup. And a DNS lookup is typically not something you'll ever have to care about. Your machines and your ISPs handle this for you, but it's good to understand it. So a very common interview question is, if I go to my browser and I type in google.com, tell me exactly what happens. And you can go crazy with this, but the gist of it is Google is going to not just try to go to google.com because that's not something it can do. It has to connect to an IP. So the very first thing that Google is going to do is it's going to go to a DNS lookup and say, okay, well, I don't know what the IP is for what you just typed in, so I'm going to look it up. Okay, it looks like it's 216.5.8.192.46. And then it does the second step where it goes and connects to that IP on the World Wide Web. And then it talks to that IP and says, hey, I want this page, and that's how it works. But it's really just a mapping of name to IP. Oh yeah, I like this analogy as well. In real world terms, it's like using a street address instead of using longitude and latitude, and telling your friends if they're like little spectacle thing. Okay, so that's just kind of quick information that we needed to get out of the way. Let's take another break. We'll make this one 6 minutes, so we'll be back on 8:30 on the dot. And the next step is why we're all here. JavaScript in the terminal. Starting JavaScript. 5:31, because it changed while I was saying that.
Those big commands that we use and all the commands that we use, is there something that we can go back and check out, like a slide, we have those ones?
Yes. Oh, the actual plans. Homework, I'm actually, there's a really great tutorial that GitHub has that is actually part of it. And that'll give you a reference. There are a bunch of Git sheets out there too. If you ever need like help on that stuff too, you can always do git in your terminal. You can do git space -- help, and that'll show you everything that you need to do. The kind you get in the second of the storm. Okay.
What is it? What's the difference between when you say running on a browser versus a terminal? Is it just like backend versus browser?
Yes.
To make sure that
I'll see. Yeah, I'll see
I'll show it. But basically, like when you hold the left arrow, how fast it goes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know how to do that.
I'll change it.
Okay.
It's a life changer. Like I don't know why more people know.
Okay.
Hold on.
They never use it in the street.
You know when you
They
need
use
a
it
repository
like
like
every
get
day.
up and use that command, those commands came up where you can best commit or all the different stages.
Yeah.
Where do we find that?
I think so. So your homework is going to be to do that stuff. And I'm gonna part of the homework is doing an online tutorial and like sending me a screenshot showing me you did it. So all of that stuff will
So back.
it'll be reinforced soon.
And then I know I'm doing I guess we leave the slides.
Yeah, in the Slack I posted.
Oh, for Kiwis. This is the first. So now this is the second link.
And then slides.
Well, like, do we usually see this before class? Because I can't remember what it was.
No, I posted at like 6:20.
Okay, cool. So I want to look over everything before.
Yeah, no, you can follow along too, like if you click it.
Yeah, I'm following along now, but I want it to look today for like Mondays or something.
Oh, I'm like,
I just
not that
can't-
organized, sorry.
It's okay, no, I'm just trying to like figure out my questions so that I can pay attention to that. But, okay, cool.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Let's do next fun stuff. So this next piece is the title of the class, JavaScript. What we're going to do is we're actually going to make a very simple JavaScript file locally on our machine. We're not going to use Git or anything like that. We're changing topics completely again. And what we're going to do is we're going to use Node to execute our file. So the typical process of this is you write your file out, you write your JavaScript in a file, you save the file, Command S, and then you go back to your terminal and you run the file. That's kind of how this is all going to play out. Before we jump into this, though, is there any burning questions that anyone has before we change topics? About Git, Hub, Git, terminal? Cool. All right, final stretch. Bye, Ari. I love that it shows that to me. I haven't seen that. Oh wow, you all are. That's really cool. So the reason that I did mine as Git repository, I had this idea. I'll actually push everything that I do in this directory up to GitHub, So like anything I do in here, you'll be able to see up on GitHub as well. So look forward to that. No matter. Now the first thing I'm going to do is in this, I want to make sure, homework. I'm going to make a directory in here called O1 because my plan is for every single class I'm going to have a new folder for that class. So I'm going to have O1 and then I'm going to change into O1. Here's my present working directory. Make sure everyone's maybe on the same page. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make a new file, and I'm going to call it hello.js, JS for JavaScript. So we're going to make this one. Now, the next thing I want to do is I actually want to open this project in my text editor. So I'm going to do sublime dot, or Atom dot. Oh my god, I removed it earlier. It's a joke. That's number 2. Oh, I did, didn't I? Thank you. Okay, Sublime dot, back in business. Now, when you open Sublime in this fashion, you'll see over here, if you don't have this sidebar open, you can actually go to View, Sidebar, and show the sidebar. But it shows the directory structure from the point that you opened Sublime. So if you're in the directory and it has 5 folders in there, it's going to show you those 5 folders in the files. It's not going to show you anything backwards. Now, this hello.js file, I just want to do something very, very simple to make sure that all of us are set up correctly. And what I want to do is I want to do a console.log. And in here, I'm going to use double quotes. And I'm going to type in hello. Well, we'll keep it the same. And I'll do semicolons. I'll try to do semicolons. Now, if you save this, and we go back to our terminal, oh, pro tip. In Sublime, it will not automatically save for you. So if you make a change and it's not saved, up here, it's going to be a little circle. See next to my cursor, see it's a little circle? When I do Command S, it goes away from a circle. So if you're like, why didn't my changes do anything? I'm going to walk over, and the first thing I always do is I see if there's a little circle there. So now you have the same trick as me. Anyways, so in this file we have a console.log hello world. And then back in our terminal, we can do node, and then the name of our file. And you can always use tab to auto-complete that out, hello.js. And if we run that, you should see hello world. And if not, this is where things might get a little hairy. Is anyone getting an unknown command or anything like that? All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, that's a config. Yeah, it's a Sublime config.
So I would have to see it first.
It's the thing that I have is really just helpful. It's really just helpful. It's very observant of you. Sorry. That's just a setting in Sublime. Your file is probably where you are. So you do what I have up there.
Yeah.
It's not. See, it's really important. See how sites is actually right now. I would ditch that. You can ditch it from here. No,
Yeah.
So you're in your O1 directory, that's where your file is. So you have to see that, so you're so I have how it goes sites. Where is that's a lot of people too.
So now that.
Okay, you made it JS5.8 O1. That's perfect. So you can do C, do C, JS5.8. That's it. So you have that Uber and C O1. You don't need to do that. You can just do slide and fire it out. Do analysis. Now, say you save a file, so then you can do node, you do the name of the file. Great. Okay, so once you're back here, you can actually do node space load.js. Good to go. Very simple. Anyone else? Please look at Ellie.
I feel like I always need help, so I'm just gonna.
Good. Good. Okay.
So I'm gonna go into the long and go back into the city. It's not bad.
I told Paula, she was like,
Did you know us?
I'm in.
Or you can do it, or you can do it.
So you could do Alice first before you.
No, I just wanted to see what yeah.
So you can't always, yeah. You can't also filter it for the numbers.
You could, you just have to get it the absolute count. Yeah. There are much more annoying things in this future than that. So I don't see the file in that file though. So if you see
Just
one sentence.
well, I think I found the wrong place.
I just told Paula that the party was doing split the party together as far as.
Because it was showing.
Yes, you're not talking. I feel bad because she was like so anti-social at the party. And that's because she didn't feel like we were dancing and everyone should dance with us. And so that's why I kept going over her. She's like, I just want to go. And over the left, she's like, I was like, oh no, please say something. I just thought like you were being rude. It's like, this is extreme. Like, just seriously standing there and watching everyone. And she's like, no, I don't feel this. She doesn't normally drink some probably Coke on the train.
Is everyone good?
Yeah, so does GitHub have like a lot of servers then?
Yes,
Kind of companies?
hundreds of thousands. No, just no. It's actually surprising. They're actually not on that much hardware. They actually only run one very, very, very big database. I have friends that work there, so I mean, if you want, I can message them if you're curious.
No, because I just thought AWS has like a lot of servers. I don't know if they use AWS servers.
No, they are co-located.
They should have it.
The biggest companies, like GitHub is a pretty good example of a company that should have their own servers. I mean, their business is hosting files. So it makes sense for their business. This is all opinion based. It makes sense for their business to like do that. For us, we don't host files. Like we just need a database and like a UI. So we use Amazon Web Services and EC2 to host all of our servers because we don't need that kind of data. We don't need that horsepower. Server, what was it? Stack Overflow only ran on 8 servers up until like 2 years ago. They were very highly optimized. They have a very good article from their architecture a couple years ago if you're interested in that stuff. Okay, so we wrote a JavaScript program. that's usually the response. No, so this is a good beginning. I mean, we're basically at the point where we can start writing little programs and seeing stuff run. This is really, really good. So a couple of things that I want to give as terminology that I would like you to take away from this class, if nothing else. So when we do this, you already have this. I'm just retyping it for some reason. This is called a function call. And your biggest giveaway are the parentheses. Now, we're going to talk about functions a lot in this class, but the thing that I want to pay more attention to is the thing in between the parentheses, the hello world. So if we do just this, does anyone know what this is in a very literal sense? A string. Very good. Strings start with either a double quote or a single quote in JavaScript. If it starts with a double quote, it must end with a double quote. If it starts with a single quote, it must end with a single quote. Your browser will help you. If I do this, hello, and then I do this, a single quote on the end, your browser should try to help you. You can see, even if you didn't have this piece right here, that this is like a totally different color. So your browser is going to try to help you out. Listen to your browser like you listen to your body. When it's in pain, what do? It's fine. No. Go to the doctor. Listen to your browser. Like, honestly, you're going to pick off of the subtle hints very, very quickly if you pay attention to them now. We have syntax highlighting for a reason. So, hello world, you could also do this, single quotes, hello world. And you could do the same exact thing like this. You could do console log hello world. But let's talk more fundamentals. It's kind of a chicken and the egg problem because I could show you what I want to show you, which is declaring a variable. So let's do var x equals a string hello world. Semicolon. Okay, so if I were to read this, if I were to come over to your machine, you just pulled me off the street and told me to read this, I would read it aloud as declare a variable x that is a string with the content of hello world, or with the value of hello world. I'll say that again. Declare a variable called x that is equal to a string with the value of hello world. Now, the next thing that you can do, the whole point of variables is to basically pass around pieces of data within a program. So, for example, you may not want to type hello world multiple times, so you just assign it to a variable. For example, let's say I wanted to print hello world twice. I wouldn't do this. I wouldn't do this. Right? That's silly. What I would do instead is I would just use my variable. And notice how I didn't wrap my variable in quotes. That's because my variable is already of the type string. It is a string literal, if you want to use the real term, string literal. So when we do console log x, save our file, and go back to the console terminal, and do node hello.js once more, we see the same exact thing. Same functionality, just a little bit different. Now let's see a more practical use case for a variable. Let's get rid of the word world out of our string. And we're going to leave the trailing space. Now what I want to do is I want to do console log x plus a string called Robert. And if we run this program, we'll see, hello, Robert. Oh, what do I do? Go away. Now you can start to see why this is a little bit more applicable. So now we can do console log x, hello, Robert, hello, Robert James. So maybe x is maybe not a good variable name. Maybe prefix would be a better name. But you can kind of see the point. We can reuse our variable, run the program again. We see hello, Robert, hello, James. Questions so far? Okay. Now, one thing that I see people do a lot when they're first learning programming is that they don't want to name their variables anything other than like one character XYZ. Your variables are, just as they said it, they are your variables. You can call them whatever you want, as long as it makes sense to you. If you can't think of a variable name, use chicken. That's my go-to rule for myself, not for like life. If you're ever in the Namely code base for whatever reason and you see chicken, Bobby was there. It's all over our code base. But you might do this. You might change the name of this variable. You're like, I don't know what I want to call it, so you call it chicken. Now, what did I do wrong? That's a great way to say it, but I didn't, more simply, I didn't change the variable names being referenced here. So if I run this program, I'm expecting an error to occur. Now remember from the first class, read the error. Read the error. Now, at first, these errors will make very, very little sense, but over time, the errors will just all look the same, and you'll get the muscle memory of how to fix them. So if I look at this, my eye is instantly drawn to this. Reference error, x is not defined. The second thing that I always look for is the line that it happened on. The line that it happened on. And Node.js and JavaScript in general is very good at telling you where things hit the fan of brown nature. And it's going to be here, hello.js, :3. This means line 3. So on this file, on line 3, something did not go right. And if we go to our program, we can go, well, x, I don't see x being declared anywhere. But I did change the name of my variable, so I'll change it to chicken. Now I'm going to leave the other one there intentionally. So if we go here, run node hello again, well, now our error has changed. You can see, what line is it on? 4. What is the actual error message? X is not defined. Those are the first two things you should always look for when you hit an error. Look for the error message and look for the line that it happened on. And that is not a JavaScript thing. That is a programming thing. It's something you should just always do. Now let's fix it. fix it, runs just fine once more. So this is a phrase that I use a lot with people who are just getting started, which is change the error or make it green. And what I mean by that is if you're doing something, you're changing your code and your error is not changing, what you're doing is not right. You're not changing the error, so therefore you're not even close to solving the problem. You might be collecting information, but you're no closer to solving the problem from a literal sense. So in this case, I changed my code, I reran it, and my error changed. I got a different line number. So that indicates to me that something I did was right. Whether or not it's the total solution, I changed something and my error changed, I'm getting closer to solving my problem. And I want you to think about that when you're going through this class. If you're doing something and your error is not changing, you're not changing the right thing. Because you're going to start working with files like way bigger than this in multiple files and multiple directories deep. So if you're changing one file and your error still isn't changing, you're probably not in the right spot. All right, enough about that. So now let's do something else. Let's declare another variable. Let's do age. What's like a good age? 21? That's like the worst age. Okay. Sorry if anyone's 21 in here. Okay. So what I want to do is, I'm going to say my goal aloud. I want to see if a variable is of a drinking age. So we're going to add a very quick if statement in here. And we're going to do if, and you have to have parentheses, age is greater than or equal to 21, curly braces. Oh yeah, programming makes you explore your entire keyboard. So here's what's going to happen. The thing between the curly braces is what is going to be executed if this is successful. So we're going to do a console log. You may legally have a drink. So remember, character by character, that's the whole nature of programming. Programs are very, very strict. So we're saying if, and then we're opening up what's called our conditional. It's a conditional statement. And inside of our conditional, I'll say area, is we're saying age must be greater than or equal to 21. If the age variable, in this case, is not greater than or equal to 21, this code will not execute. Say that again. If age is not greater than or equal to 21, this code that I have highlighted right here will not execute. And the way that JavaScript figures out which code to execute is by looking at in between the curly brace immediately following the if statement. So JavaScript is saying, so here's what JavaScript is doing. If it's reading it from left to right, which it totally does, it says, okay, if statement. Okay, what do you want me to check for this if statement? Okay, you want me to check if is greater than 21. Okay, what do you want me to do if that is successful? I'm going to look for a curly brace. Ah, there it is, and it finds it. And then it's like, okay, all the code up until the next curly brace, that's going in. That's what I'm going to run if that condition passes. Enough about that. Let's run this program. You may legally have a drink. Now you can futz around with this, right? If I change the age variable, it'll be 20. I am expecting that if I run this program again, I do not see the text, "You may legally have a drink," appear on the screen. So a very, very simple logic gate. Now let's have a little bit more fun with this. So 21, let's say if the age is greater than or equal to 21, that is of legal drinking age. Now what I want to do is I want to see, okay, based on your age, I'm going to make a guess of what you want. If the age is less than, I don't know, what's the age that you start caring about what you drink? 25? Yeah, that's about right. If you're less than 25, which you will never be less than 21, keep that in mind, because we wouldn't even be here because this would have failed. So if you're less than 25, odds are you want, like, Jaeger. I only speak the truth. And in JavaScript, you actually can put these on one line if you choose. So we can do if console log, if age is less than 25, console log Jaeger. And we'll put this console log up, actually. So it'll be the first thing to say. So it'll be, you may legally have a drink. You probably want Jaeger. What a foul liquid. And if we run this, it'll say, you may legally have a drink. You probably want Jaeger. Okay. Now let's add another piece to this. Let's do if age is less than 30. Why not? Console log, you want an old-fashioned. I have all sorts of trivia about old-fashions. So we're just kind of adding on logic. We're adding to our logic gates. Remember back to our thinking like a computer exercise on Monday, where like if this, if this, if that. We're sort of doing that. We're writing exactly what we would expect. And if I change this variable, wait, this doesn't make sense what I've done. I'm sorry. I meant greater than 30. It's actually, it probably should be greater than 25. Greater than or equal to 25. Because if you were 20, if you're 25 on the dot, it wouldn't have printed either. Because you're not less than 25, but you're not greater than 25. So if we say your age is greater than or equal to 25, you want an old-fashioned. So without running the code, and if you already have run the code, you're not allowed to say it, what is going to happen? Who here did not run the code? It was almost a trick question. It was going to print the same thing. But if we adjust our age variable to be 25, we will see you may legally have a drink and you want an old-fashioned. So just slowly layering on to this program, layering on. Now there's another thing that I'm doing right now that I also would love for you to practice. Run your code as frequently as possible. Don't try to write all of this from scratch and expect it's going to work. Because while change the error or make it green is a good way to go, change 10 errors and make it green is not a good way to write software. You want to be able to slowly iterate on something. You want to see something working even at its most primitive level. And then, okay, it works, my syntax is fine, you just keep adding on, adding on, adding on. I probably would not have been able to write this without some mistake. I even had one just now where I had the logic error with the age. And if you're thinking every single character counts, there's a lot of characters in here that you can mess up. So point being, run your programs as frequently as you possibly can. Okay, so now we're getting a little crazy here. Yes?
Is there a specific reason why the console log strings have one quote while the others have double quotes?
I don't have a good answer other than I maybe have a little bit of like dyslexia or like something. like I said, I write a few languages and I don't have a reason other than I just switch in the middle of class. Sorry. I will do my best to make them single quotes. Okay. Sorry for the confusion. Okay, so let's make this a little fancy. So let's say you're greater than or equal to 25, but you're also less than, I don't know, 60. You can do ampersand, ampersand. So let me say my logic out loud, sorry. I want to print out, if you are less than 25, you probably want Jaeger. What I also want is, if you are greater than or equal to 25, but also less than 60, I want to print you want an old-fashioned. If you are 60 or older, I want to print you want brandy. There's no logic to this. It's absolutely no logic. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell our if statement, there's two things you have to care about before running this code. Do not run the code inside of my curly braces unless age is greater than 25 and age is less than 60. 2 ampersands, keep that in mind. You will get a syntax error if you do not have 2. Or a weird binary operation. Okay, so we run this, should be the same exact operation. You want an old-fashioned because 25 is greater than or equal to 25 and it's less than 60. Now let's change our age to 65. If we run that again, you may legally have a drink, and it did not print anything else. Why? Let me do, actually, sorry, hold that thought. Let me do this. What is that? Key shortcut. View, sidebar. Okay. Is this better? Worse? Ooh. I don't know if I could do that. That one. And then we'll do this one. Over there. Oh my god, I just made it worse. Wait, what? What did I do? Oh, I see what I did. Sorry, hold the phone. Hold the phone. I'll fix it. And then terminal. And then this one goes over here. Okay, jeez. Sorry about that. Okay, so back to the original question. Why did nothing appear except for you may legally have a drink? What was that, DJ?
You didn't satisfy any conditions after that.
Right. I did not satisfy any of the conditions. That is a great way of saying it. That's the way of saying it. So we can say if age is greater than or equal to 60, and there's a much better way to do this, but we're going to roll with it. Console log, you want, I don't know, brandy. I started low with the old fashioned. I should have like done something else. And then. Oh my god, dude.
Sorry.
I can't even respond to that. Okay. I do record these classes, by the way. That's okay. So if age is greater than or equal to 60, the drink brandy. So if we run this now, we'll see you want the drink brandy. Okay. So you can see with only 14 lines of code, we have written a pretty complex program. If you were to read this, there would be a lot going on.
So the semicolon is not necessarily at the end of.
Oh my gosh. I will work on this. You have my word that I will try to be more consistent. What was that? Yeah. It's if you're going to do one or the other, just go all in or don't go all in. I'll try to be more consistent. Sorry for the confusion. I'm going to do some research too on the current opinion. Okay, is there any questions about what's going on here so far? All right. Now there's something else I want to do. So we just learned how to do like very simple if statements. One thing I also want to show you, albeit quickly, is how to run logic multiple times. So we're doing a real quick dive into loops, mostly because it might take a little while for it to come around. So what I want to do is I want to declare a variable. I want to do a new variable, and I'm going to call it counter. And I'm going to make it equal 0. Now, I'm going to try an experiment. Never tried this before. I'm just going to try it. So, Amber, if I say a number less than 10, you must just say something, make a noise. I don't know. Do something. So let's say here, if I say a number less than 10, do something. 1, 11, 2, 500, 500. Okay. Okay, so what we just did is we had repeatable logic based on some condition. The condition that I gave Amber was less than 10. And when I gave her a number, she would think, is that less than 10? And we're humans, so we can do that very, very quickly. And then she would do some operation. Woo! And we're going to do the same thing. So we're going to use something called a while loop. And it's, if you want to use it in a sentence, it's saying, while something evaluates to true, do this. While something evaluates to true, do this. In this case, we're going to do while counter is less than 10. So while the counter is less than 10, what I would like to do is I would like to do a console log. We'll keep the theme. Woohoo! And we're going to concatenate to this string. That's what the plus sign does. We're going to concatenate on our number. Now, who thinks they know what's going to happen when we run this program? Let's duck for Amber. Okay. So let's duck program. I need to change my background to a duck. I'm going to do that tomorrow. Okay, let's duck program. So we're setting a variable counter. All of the guesses were very close. Setting a variable counter equal to 0. And then we're starting a loop where if counter, think of this as an if. If the variable counter is less than 10, do this. So it's going to do woohoo, 0. And then because this is a loop, what happens is that it's going to go back to the beginning, check this condition again, and then run the logic again. So knowing everything that I just said, what is going to happen? It's going to keep going. Why? Because it doesn't increase. Counter is always 0. So let's try this. Let's make our laptops George Foreman grills. Whatever happened? Okay. Yeah. And it's just going and just going and going and going and going. And to stop this, that's all, class. Control C. Control C. You can think, yes?
What's the difference between that and why is it
Nothing. An infinite loop would only crash a program if it was like allocating more and more memory. Like it was just growing and growing and growing and growing. But this program isn't growing. It's just running something forever. In reality, every program is running in an infinite loop state that just gets broken. For example, like this terminal running on this machine right now is technically in an infinite loop. It's just waiting for something to change to do something else. Without an infinite loop, programs exit. For example, before we had this while loop, if I comment that out, the program would start and just exit. The program's not running anymore. So you have to have an infinite loop of some sort for any program to stay running. That's kind of like the trickiness of an infinite loop. It's like, really, you always need an infinite loop for something to happen. It's just what happens in that infinite loop just varies differently. Okay, so how can we make this not infinite loop? Increasing the variable. So a way to do this in JavaScript is we can do counter plus plus semicolon. And what this is going to tell the JavaScript runtime, Node.js in this case, is, hey, remember that variable counter? Whatever its current number is, just increase it by 1. So if counter is 1, it's going to make JavaScript is like, well, let's equal 1, so I'm going to make it 2. And that's just that's how it works. So now we run this program. We see hello, or sorry, woohoo, 0 to 9 times. Because what happens, if you were to duck program this, you would duck program it and you would go through this 10 times. You'd be like, okay, counter is 0, counter is less than 10, so I'm going to go in here. Okay, I'm going to increase counter, so now it's 1, and then I'm going to go back to the beginning. 1 is less than 10, and I will spare you doing that 10 times. But that's why duck programming is also helpful, is that you can kind of step through the program the same exact way that JavaScript is going to step through it. What happens if I do this? It only happened once, right? Let's run it. Correct. Now, let's say you hit another roadblock for whatever reason. Let's say you want to break out of something if the number is divisible by 3. If the number is divisible by 3, stop everything. So if the counter, and this is the trick to see if something is divisible by a certain number, you can use the modulus operator, modulo operator. If counter divided by 3 has no remainders, that's what this operator does, is it doesn't return to you it doesn't return to you a decimal, it returns to you the remainder. So if I have 2 modulus of 3, there is no remainder because it doesn't even go into it.
Would it, if you don't declare that?
I'm sorry, that was the wrong way I just said. Sorry, go ahead.
If you don't say that it's equal to 0, but then you didn't say that it's because you didn't declare it an int, would it do anything, or like, is that necessary?
You would have a failure if it was not an int.
Yeah, but I didn't declare it valid or wasn't.
You declared counter. Counter is an int. Which one are you not is not an int?
No, they all are, but I didn't necessarily declare that it is.
Oh, so the implicit version is an int internally to JavaScript. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't understand the question. So I said something that was wrong. I said that if counter was 2, modulus of 3, it would not be 0, it would be 1. So if we do counter divided by 3 and the remainder is 0, I want to stop the loop. Stop the presses, nothing else matters. And to do that, you can do break. And this is a keyword in JavaScript. JavaScript has 20 some odd keywords in it. And the easiest way to see if something is a keyword, if it's purple, purple keyword. Okay, so let's run this program. What do I do? Oh, you know why? 0 modulus of 3 is 0. Let's change our initial value to be 1. Our initial value to be 1. And if we run this again,
Yeah, second.
What did I get rid of that others did not get rid of? Ah. That was a mistake. I did not intend that. So I didn't increase my counter after my logic. I accidentally got rid of it. That was a mistake on my part. So if I run this again, you'll see 1, 2, 3, and then it stops.
I don't think I'm going to get the part of the code.
So if you put the counter above the if, then you'll probably only see 2.
I saw 3. Oh, yeah.
If you're interested in shortcuts, by the way, I do them naturally. So if you ever see me do anything, you're like, how'd you just do that? Please feel free to stop me at any point. Yes, that's what I was about to say. So command and option on Macs, sorry Justin, command option and then the up and down arrows will actually move the current line up and down. That also works. Control Shift. Command and, I'm sorry, I told you the wrong one. Command Control, sorry. Command Control. Command Control up and down arrows will move the current line of code around. You can also move entire blocks, so if I have this piece highlighted right here, I can actually move this around as well. Pro tips. Hashtag pro tip. Console log pro tip. Okay. So we have about 8 minutes left. I don't want to start a new subject just yet. I want to leave it here, kind of on a cliffhanger. Sorry, but we have started our stuff. The one thing that I'll do is I want the class to guide me through committing this and pushing it up to GitHub. So like backseat drive me to GitHub. Git add what? Okay. Okay. Character by character.
Oh. So it's quotes.
Quotes. What'd you say? Created.
Oh,
Created, added, and I'm not a stickler for that. Okay. Now what?
status, that.
I like that. You know, always check. You always get a system report, status report. Okay.
And you want to do get right
Okay.
to the origin.
Okay.
I just do master.
I didn't teach you this, but good.
So that,
A get push would have worked the same way.
so that last part.
Get push.
Get push. What does that mean?
That pushed the changes that we just made in our local Git repository up to GitHub. So if I go to GitHub, you can see 44 seconds ago, hello, 01, hello.js. And these changes were pushed to GitHub.
So what does git commit mean?
Git commit actually stores the current state of the file to be pushed to GitHub. A file save is not the same thing as a git commit. Like, they can be confusing, but they're not the same. You don't have to push this to yours, by the way. I need to make this open. I was just hoping to.
There's an untracked file, but
Which one? Oh, it already is public. Oh, thank you, Robert. All right.
our like dashboards are different. They both have the same thing, but mine looks like yours and yours looks like.
What does yours look like?
Hello.
I use this one there, but you're just like general like history.
Got it. Okay, so I don't know why I wasn't like saying words. We're done. Again, please exit tickets. I read them I read them every time. And to prove it, yeah, I'll get to that in a second. So, before you do those, I'll just answer. So there was 2 questions that I wanted to answer from the exit tickets on Monday. The first one was, what is jQuery? Totally fine question. I'm just going to read straight off my notes. Back in the early days of web development with JavaScript, it was the Wild West of browsers. Implementation of JavaScript had massive differences between browsers. Because of this, jQuery was developed to give a once-and-for-all interface for common integration operations, like finding HTML elements on the page. Browsers are much more unified today versus early 2000s, but jQuery's dominance is still strong due to the ease of use and functionality it provides. Long story short, jQuery is a JavaScript library to make extremely common tasks easy to accomplish, such as hiding elements, making click events easier, etc. The other question I wanted to answer was, what are the programs we downloaded and what do they do? A little bit, we use them today, so maybe a little bit more clear, but we'll go over Git in depth soon. So, Node.js is an interpreter for JavaScript. It can run JavaScript code from your terminal, as we just saw. It was originally extracted from the extremely performant V8 JS engine embedded in the Chrome browser. Since then, Node.js has sort of taken a life of its own, but it is still extremely fast. When writing back-end JavaScript, it's more likely you'll be running code through the Node.js runtime. Sublime Text is a graphical editor that is 1, fast, 2, simple, 3, pluggable. You can customize Sublime Text to an almost obnoxious level. It's funny that I write these like the way I talk. There's not a lot of history on Sublime Text. All I can tell you is that I use it for every project I have worked on for the last 7 years. So exit tickets, And then last but not least, in the channel in Slack, I put it up here as the topic. So that's the course, what I call the tracker. And everything that goes on in this class, like slides, videos, homework, I put in there. So for this case, for today, if you click this link, you'll be brought to a GitHub gist. You'll look for the class that you care about, in this case, class 01. Here are the slides we were just looking at. Here is the homework assignment on a different page. 3 relatively small assignments included in this homework. So the first one, start and finish the try get tutorial located at the link. All you have to do is take a screenshot proving that you did it and send it along to Robert and myself. Assignment number 2, given the following 2 directory structures, what would be the list of terminal commands in order to create this? So you don't have to run the commands, just give me a bulleted list of like, you would run this, and then you would run this, and then you would run this. And then another for this one as well. Assignment number 3, take what you wrote down from assignment number 2 and add it to a file. So like take the steps, add it to a file in a new directory called JS homework, and use git to commit the file and push it to a new repository you create. New repository, so going through the same motions. Don't use the one that you created in this class. And that GitHub repository will be where you submit your homework for the rest of this class. Reason being, we can comment on it. It's easy, and it forces you to practice, things that we're trying to teach you. That's all I have on that. And then if you want, the video will be at this link as well. Exit tickets. Sure. Once you're done with the exit tickets, have a lovely evening and weekend.
And I commented this out and then
You don't have parentheses in mind. Where's your hair? Mine is here. Oh, that's So in this scenario, line by line, right? That program. If parentheses A, period, parentheses, open curly brace, console.log, character by character, username, curly brace. Why is that there? DRG.
yeah, now it doesn't like
Okay. So you change here, which is good. And what is the syntax? Have a good evening. What is the syntax for while loops? Character by character. Do you happen to write Python or another language?
I do.
But Python cares about parentheses, doesn't it?
Yes.
Does not care about
Wait, no, the
parentheses.
bird had space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
JavaScript cares about parentheses.
Ah. Okay.
So, okay, what line was the error on?
It's 13.
Okay.
Okay, here.
Okay.
Oh.
JavaScript cares about parentheses.
Oh. Yeah.
That's just the name.
Yeah.
You gotta get it. It's just a message describing it. It's just like it's not the name of your file. The name of your file is the name of the file. Event message is yeah, and you can see the name of the files below that. That's the latest event on your file. If it's there, yes. Then it's like, nah, you wanted it here. Good night. Have a good night. Thank you. You're welcome. I mean, you went into the records. Okay. You're welcome.
So how do you keep it straight between parentheses and not parentheses?
How what?
How do you keep it straight then? Parentheses and not? I'm looking at my phone for and I have those.
So you're just like me. You're inconsistent.